You might think that hitting your mid 30s and seeing your income climb is a victory lap. You got the promotion, the bonus, maybe even a side hustle that's finally paying off. But here's the uncomfortable reality. As your paycheck grows, your freedom doesn't automatically grow with it. In fact, for many men aged 35 to 45, rising earnings quietly set the stage for some of the most destructive financial traps that rarely get talked about until it's too late. Let's start with something almost invisible yet relentless: lifestyle inflation. You've probably noticed it yourself. Maybe 5 years ago, a $2,500 monthly rent felt steep, and saving $500 a month for retirement or emergencies was a stretch. Fast forward, your salary has increased from $80,000 to $120,000, and suddenly that same $2,500 rent seems trivial. You upgrade to a nicer home, take on a $600,000 mortgage instead of a $350,000 one, lease a new luxury SUV for $700 a month, and spend freely on weekend trips, fancy dinners, or tech gadgets. On paper, everything looks fine, your income is higher, your lifestyle is fancier, but the savings rate, the actual money you're putting away for long-term freedom, is quietly collapsing. Here's the math that hits most men like a shockwave. Imagine earning $80,000 a year, spending $60,000, and saving $20,000. That's a 25% savings rate. 5 years later, income rises to $120,000, but expenses creep up to $110,000 thanks to lifestyle upgrades. Now you're saving only $10,000, just 8% of your income, despite earning 50% more. The absolute number might feel okay, you're still putting something away, but the power of compounding, the very thing that builds wealth silently over decades, is losing steam. Every $10,000 you save at age 35 could grow to over $80,000 by retirement at 65, assuming a modest 7% annual return. By undersaving because of lifestyle creep, you're forfeiting tens of thousands in potential wealth without even realizing. It's not just about money either. Lifestyle inflation creates invisible chains. Bigger homes mean higher property taxes, insurance, maintenance, and utilities. Expensive cars aren't just the monthly payments, they cost more in fuel, insurance, and repairs. Private schooling or extra classes for kids might feel necessary, but they lock you into commitments that reduce your flexibility. The more you spend to match your income, the less margin you have in your budget, and margin is everything. Margin is what lets you absorb shocks, a job loss, a health emergency, a market crash, without going into financial panic. Without it, even small surprises can feel catastrophic. Now, let's be clear, lifestyle inflation isn't inherently bad. Enjoying the fruits of your labor is reasonable, even necessary for happiness. But the trap comes when income growth is immediately met with proportional spending growth. It creates the illusion of wealth while silently eroding real financial security. The first step to escaping this trap is awareness. Track your expenses with the same rigor you track your income. If your lifestyle grows faster than your income, you're not gaining freedom, you're renting it from your future self. Many men in this age range also fall into what I call the overconfidence trap during their peak earning years. There's a common belief that if you're in your late 30s or early 40s, you still have plenty of time to make up for any financial mistakes. The problem is that this mindset often delays critical decisions like investing consistently, diversifying portfolios, or even calculating how much you actually need for retirement. You might think, I'll start maxing out my 401k in 5 years, or I still have time to invest once the kids are in school. The issue is, those 5 years are the most powerful compounding years you're likely to see. Money invested at 35% grows exponentially more than money invested at 40%, thanks to compound interest. Let's illustrate this with numbers. Suppose you can invest $15,000 per year. If you start at age 35, assuming a 7 annual return, by age 65, that $15,000 per year grows to roughly $1.2 million. If you delay until 40 investing the same $15,000 annually, you end up with around $920,000. 5 years of delay costs you nearly $300,000 in potential retirement wealth. That's not just numbers on a spreadsheet, that's years of lifestyle, vacations, or financial freedom you've unknowingly surrendered. Overconfidence in your peak earning years tricks you into thinking that time is on your side indefinitely, but in reality, every year you delay compounds your financial risk. Then there's the issue of concentrated risks. Some men assume that their high income shields them from mistakes, so they invest heavily in a single stock, over-leverage in real estate, or take on risky side ventures without proper planning. The belief is, I can handle it, I'll recover if it goes wrong. But financial math isn't forgiving. A concentrated $100,000 loss in a poorly diversified portfolio at age 38 may take years of disciplined investing to recover. If that loss coincides with life's other commitments, mortgage payments, tuition bills, or a career transition, it can create a cascade of stress and missed opportunities. The third major trap men face in this stage is the accumulation of long-term financial commitments that silently reduce flexibility. Mortgages stretching 25 to 30 years, car loans, home renovations, and even lifestyle expectations like frequent travel or private schooling can shrink your budget margin faster than you realize. Every fixed obligation narrows the leeway you have to respond to unexpected events. Take, for example, a $550,000 mortgage at 6% interest over 30 years. The monthly principal and interest alone is roughly $3,300. Add property taxes, insurance, and maintenance, and you're looking at $4,000, $4,200 per month just to maintain your home. If income drops by 10% during a job transition, your budget is immediately stressed, leaving less room for savings or discretionary spending. Even seemingly safe decisions can be traps. Upgrading to a nicer home or car often feels like progress, but these commitments tie you down. They reduce the financial margin that lets you pivot, switch careers, take a sabbatical, or invest in opportunities that could yield higher returns. Men in this age bracket often underestimate how quickly flexibility erodes. By 40, financial decisions made with optimism, thinking you'll always earn more tomorrow, can become chains that make recovery slow, stressful, or even impossible without lifestyle sacrifices. Here's a practical exercise to see if you're at risk. List all your monthly fixed obligations, mortgage or rent, car payments, insurance, tuition, subscriptions, and other recurring expenses. Total them up. Now compare that number to your monthly income. If your fixed obligations exceed 50 to 60% of your gross income, you're entering a zone where your margin is dangerously thin. You may feel wealthy on paper, but your actual financial freedom, the ability to make choices without stress, is constrained. That's the exact situation that traps many men in their late 30s and early 40s. Breaking free requires three things. First, awareness. Track every dollar and identify where lifestyle inflation is silently creeping in. Second, prioritization. Ask yourself which expenses genuinely contribute to happiness or long-term goals, and which are obligations created by habit or social pressure. Third, action. Cap discretionary spending increases to a fraction of income growth, ideally keeping your savings rate steady or increasing even as earnings rise. Remember, true wealth isn't about income, it's about freedom, flexibility, and the margin to absorb life's surprises without panic. Another overlooked aspect is how debt interacts with these traps. Men often take on debt under the assumption that their future earnings will comfortably cover payments. But compound interest on consumer debt, like credit cards or personal loans, can undo the benefits of any income increase. A $20,000 credit card balance at 20% interest can cost nearly $4,000 per year just in interest if you only make minimum payments. Compare that to investing $20,000 annually at 7. You'd be missing out on roughly $1.2 million over 30 years. The math is brutal, and the system is designed to make delayed repayment feel easy while silently eroding real wealth. Now, let's combine these traps to see the real-world impact. Consider a 38-year-old professional earning $120,000, living in a $600,000 house with a $3,500 monthly mortgage, a $700 car payment, $1,000 in monthly discretionary spending, and saving only $10,000 per year. If he delays investing for retirement by 5 years, increases discretionary spending by 20% as income rises, and keeps high-interest debt for emergencies, his financial flexibility is rapidly shrinking. One sudden event, a layoff, market correction, or unexpected health expense, could force him to sell assets at a loss, take on more debt, or cut lifestyle drastically. In other words, he's financially trapped not because of low income, but because of decisions made under the illusion of security. Breaking these patterns is challenging but entirely possible. Begin by separating lifestyle growth from income growth. Every time your salary increases, resist the urge to inflate expenses by the same percentage. Aim to increase your savings rate instead. Make long-term financial commitments, homes, cars, loans, only after thorough calculations that factor in worst-case scenarios, not just optimistic projections. Finally, invest early and consistently, prioritizing diversification over quick wins, and let compounding work in your favor rather than relying on delayed, high-risk plays later. You're not failing if your finances aren't perfect. Most men in their 30s and 40s are learning the hard lessons the market and life don't announce in advance. The key is understanding the system, using actual numbers to guide your decisions, and building margin in your budget so you're prepared for both expected and unexpected events. The difference between feeling trapped and feeling free isn't income, it's strategy, awareness, and disciplined execution over time. By now, you should be seeing the pattern. Lifestyle inflation, overconfidence in peak earning years, and long-term commitments silently erode wealth, often simultaneously. They're subtle, but they compound quickly. The good news is that once you recognize these traps, you can take practical, data-driven steps to escape them. Every adjustment you make in your 30s and 40s, whether it's capping discretionary spending, investing consistently, or carefully evaluating commitments, has an outsized impact on your long-term freedom. In summary, the journey from age 35 to 45 is full of financial illusions. Bigger paychecks feel like freedom, but without discipline, they often mask deeper vulnerabilities. The system is broken in the sense that rising income is celebrated without a parallel focus on true wealth-building behaviors. By tracking your expenses, maintaining or increasing your savings rate, investing early, and keeping fixed obligations manageable, you reclaim the freedom that income alone can't buy. Real wealth isn't flashy. It's the ability to navigate life without being financially trapped, stress-free, and in control. Now that we've unpacked how lifestyle inflation quietly drains wealth and how overconfidence in peak earning years steals compounding potential, let's dig deeper into the consequences of long-term financial commitments and reduced flexibility. This is where the stakes get real. Many men in their late 30s and early 40s assume that steady paychecks and rising income automatically buy freedom. The truth is the opposite. Fixed obligations create financial rigidity, and without conscious planning, that rigidity can turn minor setbacks into major crises. Take mortgages, for example. A $500,000 mortgage over 30 years at 6% interest translates to a monthly principal and interest payment of roughly $3,000. Factor in property taxes, homeowners insurance, and maintenance, and you're easily at $3,800 to $4,000 per month. That's almost half of the gross monthly income for someone earning $100,000. Add a car payment of $600, student loans or childcare expenses, and suddenly a 10% dip in income or a $2,000 unexpected expense feels catastrophic. Men in this stage often believe that future raises will cover everything, but raises are never guaranteed, and life has a way of throwing curveballs at the least convenient times. Even investments in side ventures can become traps if they're concentrated or illiquid. Some men assume they're building wealth by piling into company stock, crypto, or speculative real estate flips, thinking, "I'll sell when it's convenient." But when these investments are illiquid or highly volatile, accessing that money quickly without loss becomes impossible. Real wealth isn't just about how much your assets are worth on paper, it's about what you can actually deploy when life demands it. A $200,000 paper gain in a volatile stock doesn't help if your car breaks down and you need $5,000 immediately. Margin in your budget is just as important as the margin on your investments. Here's a practical illustration. Imagine a 40-year-old professional with $150,000 in annual income. He has a $550,000 mortgage at 6, 2 car loans totaling $1,200 per month, and monthly discretionary spending of $1,500. He saves $15,000 per year in a 401k, but delays any other investments. Suddenly, he faces a job loss or unexpected medical expense totaling $10,000. Without sufficient liquid savings, he's forced to either liquidate investments at a loss, incur high-interest debt, or cut essential spending. His financial flexibility, the ability to respond calmly, is severely compromised, not because he isn't earning enough, but because his commitments have trapped him. Long-term obligations also have psychological effects. The stress of large fixed costs can influence career decisions, forcing men to stay in jobs they dislike or avoid entrepreneurial opportunities simply because they can't afford any income volatility. It's not just financial stress, it's emotional stress that compounds over years, quietly eroding quality of life. Many men in this demographic wake up at 42, 43%, or 44%, realizing they're financially trapped in ways they never anticipated, and by then, the cost to pivot becomes significantly higher. This is where understanding trade-offs becomes crucial. Every financial decision carries opportunity costs. Upgrading your house to a $700,000 property might feel like progress, but that same $200,000 increase in principal could have been invested elsewhere, generating $1.4 million over 30 years at a 7% return. Similarly, leasing a $700 per month car may offer comfort and status, but in the same period, investing that money annually could compound to over $80,000 by retirement. The numbers are stark. Short-term lifestyle gains often pale in comparison to long-term freedom losses. Now let's connect all three traps we've discussed: lifestyle inflation, overconfidence in peak earning years, and heavy long-term commitments. Together, they create a vicious cycle. Men see income rise, assume they have time to invest, inflate their lifestyle to match earnings, and commit to long-term obligations, all while delaying critical investing. Each year compounds both the illusion of wealth and the real risk of being financially trapped. It's subtle but relentless. By age 45, a man can be earning six figures, owning a home, and appearing successful, yet have less real financial flexibility than he did at 35. So, how do you break the cycle? The solution begins with awareness and honest accounting. First, calculate your true margin. Subtract all fixed obligations, essential spending, and savings goals from your income. The remaining number is your discretionary margin, the amount you can freely allocate without jeopardizing your future. Many men are shocked to find that this margin is only 10 to 15% of income, even after years of raises. Recognizing this gap is the first step to regaining control. Second, manage lifestyle inflation intentionally. A simple rule is to allocate no more than 30 to 40% of any income increase to lifestyle upgrades, while directing the rest to savings, investments, or debt reduction. For example, if your raise is $10,000, consider increasing your annual investments by $6,000 and allowing only $4,000 for lifestyle enhancements. Over a decade, this approach could mean hundreds of thousands more in retirement wealth without sacrificing comfort today. Third, invest early and consistently, prioritizing compounding over speculation. A diversified portfolio of index funds, retirement accounts, and low-cost ETFs may not sound exciting, but it leverages time, the one factor you can't buy back. Delaying investment in your 30s, assuming you'll catch up later, is one of the most costly mistakes financially aware men make. As we calculated earlier, even a 5-year delay can reduce lifetime retirement wealth by $200,000, $300,000, money you can never recover. Fourth, critically evaluate long-term commitments before making them. Calculate worst-case scenarios for mortgages, car loans, or educational expenses. Ask, if my income drops by 20, can I still maintain my obligations without stress or sacrificing savings? If the answer is no, renegotiate, downsize, or restructure your commitments. True freedom comes not from income alone, but from having choices, knowing you can respond to life events without panic. Another strategy is to prioritize liquid savings alongside investments. Keep an emergency fund of 6 to 12 months of expenses in accessible accounts. Many men focus solely on retirement investing, leaving themselves vulnerable to short-term shocks. This simple step preserves both financial flexibility and peace of mind. Remember, liquidity is real wealth in a world where life rarely follows a predictable path. Let's consider a full example of a man who escaped these traps. At 37, he earned $110,000 and felt constrained by his mortgage, new car, and student loans. Instead of chasing further lifestyle upgrades with raises, he froze discretionary spending, increased his 401k contributions to 15% of income, and invested an additional $10,000 per year in a diversified taxable account. He also maintained an emergency fund of $50,000. By 45, his investments had grown to over $400,000, his debt remained manageable, and he had the margin to negotiate career opportunities, take a sabbatical, or invest in entrepreneurial ventures without financial stress. The key wasn't a higher income, it was disciplined application of real numbers, margin, and compounding power. Finally, let's talk mindset. You're not failing if your finances feel tight, even if you've been earning well. The system is broken in the sense that income growth is often celebrated without teaching the skills required to convert it into real freedom. Most men don't learn early that rising income can be a trap when it drives proportional spending, overconfidence, and commitments that reduce flexibility. The good news is that recognition itself is powerful. Once you see these traps, the corrective path is clear. Track actual numbers, cap lifestyle inflation, invest consistently, and protect your margin. If you implement even small changes, the long-term effects are massive, freeing up $500 a month from discretionary spending and investing it consistently at a 7% return grows to nearly $400,000 over 30 years. Avoiding a $20,000 high-interest debt today prevents $4,000 in interest lost each year. Keeping mortgage and loan obligations within 50 to 60% of income preserves flexibility and reduces stress. These aren't hypothetical numbers, they're real, tangible wealth-building strategies. In summary, the financial traps men face between 35 and 45, lifestyle lifestyle inflation, overconfidence during peak earning years, and long-term commitments that shrink flexibility are subtle, interconnected, and powerful. They silently reduce savings rates, compound risk, and erode freedom, often disguised behind rising income and apparent success. Awareness, deliberate budgeting, disciplined investing, and cautious commitment management are the tools to reclaim control. True wealth isn't flashy. It's the ability to navigate life stress-free, make choices without panic, and leverage actual numbers to build lasting freedom. So, as you reflect on your own finances, ask yourself, are your rising earnings truly creating freedom, or are they quietly chaining you to obligations and risks? Are you leveraging compounding in the most critical years or deferring growth under the illusion of plenty of time? And finally, do your long-term commitments leave you the flexibility to respond to life, or are they silently shrinking your margin, leaving you financially trapped? These are the questions that separate men who will reach 50% with real wealth from those who are financially constrained despite a seemingly high income. The path forward is simple but disciplined. Track your actual numbers, cap lifestyle inflation, invest early and consistently, maintain liquidity, and evaluate every long-term commitment against worst-case scenarios. The payoff isn't immediate gratification, it's freedom, peace of mind, and real wealth that compounds quietly while life happens. The sooner you internalize these lessons, the more margin you create, the fewer shocks derail your progress, and the more choice you retain. That's how wealth survives, not by chasing income, but by managing it intelligently and building margin in every aspect of your financial life. By taking control now, you convert what looks like a middle-aged financial plateau into a launching pad for decades of security, freedom, and opportunity. And the best part? It doesn't require extraordinary income, luck, or risk. It requires consistent, rational application of actual numbers, careful prioritization, and conscious decision-making. This is how smart men turn the traps of 35-45 into stepping stones for real, stress-free wealth. If this breakdown helped you see your finances more clearly, subscribe for more real, numbers-driven strategies. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.